They tell us the world is not interested in your excuses. It doesn't wait for your pain, your doubts, or your fears. The world only rewards those who overcome weakness, those who can keep going without breaking, those who become unbreakable in mind and spirit. And the ancient Stoics figured this out long ago. They did not write laws on stone, but in the way of living. Harsh, unyielding principles meant to break the weakness and create a mind that could withstand the tempests of life. Today, you will learn those rules. Not gentle philosophies, but battle-hardened laws that shaped warriors, emperors, and philosophers who walked with unshakable fortitude. If you wish for a mind that no insult, no betrayal, no loss will be able to shatter, remain with me. Because by the end, you'll see that mental toughness isn't given. It's built, law by law, choice by choice. The first brutal law is simple to hear but difficult to live. Stop being a victim. Marcus Aurelius lived through plagues, betrayals, and wars. He could have easily said, "Why me?" He could have complained about the weight of ruling an empire. But instead, he embraced the fact that life doesn't work to our desires. He journalized, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you while you live, while it is in your power. Be good." Dying minds lamented injustice. Strong minds embrace reality and employ it. Whenever you utter life is unfair, you relinquish your power. But if you gaze at adversity and say, "This is fuel," you destroy weakness. Ask yourself, are you the author of your story, or are you a victim? The Stoics would instruct, take up the pen. The second law, accept discomfort. Seneca, one of Rome's wealthiest men, chose deliberately to sleep on hard floors, eat coarse food, and wear coarse clothing, even though he could have afforded luxury. Why? To condition his mind not to rely on comfort, because comfort makes one weak, and weakness breaks down under pressure. Take a look around today. Round-the-clock entertainment, food delivered to your doorstep, distractions at your fingertips. Modern life is supposed to keep you soft, and each time you take the easy way, you weaken your mind. But if you take voluntary suffering, cold showers, hard exercise, fasting, discipline, you are saying to your brain, "I am more powerful than my desires." Weakness perishes each time you enter into hardship. Strength increases each time you suffer what others wish to escape. So the question is, are you nourishing your weakness or starving it? The third law penetrates deeper. Master your emotions, or they will master you. Epictetus, a slave from birth, beaten and mistreated, could have allowed anger and resentment to define him. He did not, he said. "It is not what happens to you, but how you react that matters." Weak persons blow up at criticism, crumble at rejection, freeze in panic. Strong minds remain calm during storms. When somebody betrays you, do not seek revenge. When somebody insults you, do not yell back. True power is silence. Visualize your adversary throwing words at you, anticipating your outburst, and you remain immobile like a rock. That quiet is more deafening than any debate. Because weakness bellows, yet strength murmurs. Each second you master anger, jealousy, fear, you are subjugating weakness under the silent knuckle of self. Control, the fourth merciless law, disengage from things you cannot control. This law is unforgiving because it makes you give up on everything that you hold on to: position, wealth, approval, even human beings. Marcus Aurelius buried children. Epictetus lost his liberty. Seneca lost his riches. And yet they did not shatter. Why? Because they constructed their minds on what could not be stolen: virtue, reason, self-discipline. Weakness is pleading the world to give you what you desire. Strength is being able to say, even if I lose everything, I am still me. When they leave you, when luck runs out, when your world shatters, you can weep, you can curse, and it will not matter. The only decision is, will you fall with it, or will you remain intact? The Stoic remains intact, and this is the ugly reality. Mental weakness is not broken in comfort, in easy days, in quiet mornings. It is killed in combat, against yourself, against your desires, against the quiet voice that whispers, "Give up." The Stoics were not indulging in fantasy. They practiced these laws because their world was brutal, capricious, and unsafe. And so is ours. The foes are different. Perhaps not armies at your door, but bills, deception, defeat, rejection. The weak fall apart. The resolute stand. And these laws will determine which one you will be. The fifth brutal law is this: master the art of silence. Failing minds require an explanation, a justification, an endless argument. But silence is a weapon, the strong use with precision. Seneca once wrote, "It is better to be despised for simplicity than to be tormented by constant explanation." Imagine the strongest individuals you know, not the loudest, who yell, but the ones who can sit quietly, unruffled, untouchable, because they don't need the world's approval. When someone insults you, when they lie about you, when they attempt to provoke you, silence is your shield. Why? Because every reaction fuels your foe. But silence starves them. The instant you cease to justify yourself to everyone, you take back your power. The weak argue to prove themselves right. The strong are silent and let the truth speak. The sixth law is even crueler. Abandon the illusion of control over others. Weak individuals tire themselves attempting to have everyone please them, attempting to warp people's behaviors, attempting to try to force the world to conform to their plan. But the Stoics were wiser. Epictetus taught, "You may control your mind, but not events. Strive, therefore, to control what is yours and leave the rest." Try to imagine the liberty that results when you no longer attempt to control others. Your boss treats you badly, control your reaction, not their actions. Your partner leaves you, control your pride, not their decisions. The world is crazy, unpredictable, vicious. Weakness attempts to wrestle craziness into sanity. Strength knows that chaos exists and can choose serenity. This law sets you free. When you cease expending energy on controlling others, you release all of it on controlling yourself. The seventh law penetrates the core of weakness. Discipline is superior to motivation. Motivation wanes, discipline lasts. Marcus Aurelius rose at sunrise to do his work as he ruled an empire. Was he always inspired? Necessarily not. But he wrote to himself, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I am rising to do the work of a human being." Weakness waits for the right mood, the right feeling, the right day. Strength acts no matter. Weakness speaks, "I don't feel like it." Strength speaks, "I will do it anyway." Each day you choose discipline over ease, then you destroy. You destroy the weakness that lies in wait to grow within you. Discipline is the hammer that shapes a mind of steel. Ask yourself, are you allowing moods to control your life, or are you taking control of your life with discipline? The eighth brutal law: prepare for death. Most individuals live as though they will never die. They squander time, they indulge, they quarrel about peanuts. But the Stoics lived memento mori. Remember, you will die. Death was not a negative thought to them. It was a resource. It focused their attention. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." Weakness avoids death and lives in distraction. Strength faces death and therefore lives fully. When you wake in the morning and realize this could be your last sunrise, suddenly pettiness, gossip, fear of failure, they vanish. What remains? What matters? Death crushes weakness because it reminds you, time is the most precious currency. Waste it and weakness wins. Use it and strength grows. The ninth and final law is merciless, but liberating. Practice radical self-responsibility. No excuses, no blame. Weak minds always blame someone. The economy, their parents, their boss, their enemies. But the Stoics taught, responsibility is the basis of freedom. If you take on that everything is your fault, then everything is within your ability to change. Seneca said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult." When you own up, you destroy the fantasy of weakness. You cease to expect someone else to bail you out. You cease to blame situations. You recognize the battlefield is in yourself. And when you defeat yourself, no one can defeat you. Ponder on that. 9. Ruthless laws. Stop victimizing. Embrace discomfort. Manage your emotions. Detach from things you can't control. Master silence. Stop attempting to control others. Live by discipline, not motivation. Remember death. Take radical responsibility. These are not soft lessons. They require blood, sweat, humility, and grit. But each one is a weapon. Each one is armor. And collectively, they create a fortress of mind that cannot be shattered. Weakness in the mind contracts when it comes into contact with these laws. It doesn't have space to breathe. And you, if you live them, will be above the din, untouched. The Stoics didn't pen these laws to provide tweets for social media. They wrote them to live, to survive, to govern themselves in a more brutal world than the one you live in. They weren't afforded weakness, and neither are you. Weakness is waiting to annihilate you. In your career, your relationships, your aspirations. These laws are your shield, but only if you adopt them. The question is, will you? Or will weakness prevail? Weakness reminds you daily. It reminds you to hit the snooze button, to ease up, to steer clear of pain, to let feelings guide. And most of us oblige. But when you start living under these laws, you will feel something shift. That voice gets softer. The hold of weakness loosens. Why? Because these laws are not hypotheses. They are useful tools. And each time you do, you are constructing a barrier between your mind and devastation. Consider silence, for instance. The majority of folks don't give it enough credit. In a society where everyone has an opinion, wants to be heard, to be noticed, silence translates to being defeated. Silence is strength. Suppose your adversary attempts to get under your skin, hoping you will blow up. You remain silent. You maintain a neutral face. You don't provide them with the gift of reaction. Do you know how much power that demonstrates? Your silence is more powerful than their insults. It becomes intolerable for them. They will pressure more, but you won't move. This isn't weakness, it is control. And control is power. The better you are able to conquer silence, the more impenetrable you are. Weakness cannot exist where silence exists. No, consider discipline. Everybody desires the life discipline offers, the respect, the health, the wealth, the liberty. But hardly anyone desires to go through what discipline entails. The Stoics were merciless to themselves because they understood that liberty without discipline is bondage. Seneca endured poverty to remember he could live without extravagance. Marcus disciplined himself to wake up early and toil tirelessly. Epictetus suffered under slavery and yet conditioned his mind like iron. Their lives are testament to the fact. Discipline is freedom. Weakness insists, I'll do it tomorrow. Strength insists, I'll do it now. And every time you opt for now, you annihilate the softness within you. Discipline hurts today to be powerful tomorrow. The weak fear that hurt and remain powerless forever. Take the law of memento mori. Remember death. How many people do you know living as if life will never end? They waste hours scrolling, fighting, pursuing things that don't matter. The Stoics reflected on death not to grieve, but to live with urgency. When Marcus said you could leave life at any moment, he was not attempting to frighten himself. He was attempting to alert himself, because death is not far off. It may be tomorrow, it may be tonight. And when you understand this in a deep way, weakness no longer has power over you. You don't care about trivial drama anymore. You don't waste time griping. You don't live in fear of failure. For failure itself is rendered meaningless in the presence of death. You move, you act, you live. Weakness will not thrive in a place where death is remembered. Responsibility binds it all together. Weak people are stuck because they are constantly pointing fingers outward. They blame their parents, their teachers, their bosses, the government, the universe, anything but themselves. But responsibility is freedom. when you take on the statement, "I am responsible for everything that happens to me," something changes. You are no longer waiting on somebody else to make your life better. You become the solution. And when you are the solution, weakness has no place to hide. Because weakness feeds on blame, strength feeds on ownership. You own failure. You own success. And owning it makes you unstoppable, because you are in control of everything. Accountability annihilates weakness, like fire annihilates paper. But don't make the mistake. These rules are merciless. Living them will cause you pain. You will be uncomfortable. You will be misconstrued. People will say that you are cold, aloof, cruel. They won't get it when you don't respond, when you don't complain. When you don't waste time running after what they run, they'll call you heartless. But listen, you are not heartless. You are unbreakable. Weakness is getting every jab, every blow, every failure like a cut. Strength is getting them and deciding not to bleed. These rules don't render you insensitive. They render you complete. And gradually, as you do it, you'll see something. The very things that once annihilated you, betrayal, rejection, failure, no longer do. They roll right over you like night shadows. The din of the world recedes. The storms roll in. But you still stand. Because you are no longer living in reaction. You are living in control. That is what it means to annihilate mental weakness. Not to never feel, but never to be broken by feeling. Not to never fall, but always to rise. To walk through flames and come out steel. That is what these laws are forging in you. You've likely noticed something about these laws. They don't safeguard you by keeping you from harm. They safeguard you by making you resilient to it. Everyone squanders their lives seeking comfort. Seeking means of avoiding hardship. But weakness isn't killed by comfort. It is cultivated there. Weakness is like mold. It thrives in dark, warm, secure corners. The Stoics pulled themselves into the light. They went out for the cold, the starvation, the rejection, the losses. Because only through confronting these could they gain strength. You don't destroy weakness by concealing. You destroy it by entering the fire and learning to survive there. Consider Marcus Aurelius. He wasn't merely a philosopher. He was emperor of Rome. Picture governing an empire that is under assault at all times, coping with treachery in the Senate, wars on the borders, pestilence ravaging the streets, and still managing to write about a few words of gratitude, discipline, and perspective. Do you think weakness had any possibility of survival in him? Number because Marcus lived by these laws. He knew that to govern the empire, he first had to govern himself. The same holds for you. You may not dominate an empire, but you dominate your life. If you can't dominate your own mind, you'll always dominate to someone else's weakness, binds you in chains. Strength shatters them. Think of Epictetus. Born a slave, maimed, battered. The guy had every justification to grumble, to despise existence, to wallow in bitterness. But he didn't. He exercised control. He exercised perspective. He instructed his students, "You can bind my leg, but not even Zeus can overpower my will." This is what renders you invulnerable. Weakness gives voice to, "I am a victim." Strength affirms, "You can injure my body, but my mind belongs to me." And when you start thinking like this, there is no circumstance, no foe, no treachery that can actually crush you. Because your fortress isn't outside, it is inside. And no one can invade it without your authorization. No, apply this to your life. You are tested every day. Someone insults you online. Do you take the bait and fight? That is weakness. The law of silence tells you you don't have to defend yourself. You are not wounded because words are wind. You experience failure at work, a project fails. Weakness tells you to quit. Strength tells you to change. You lose a loved one. Weakness tells you to fall into despair. Strength tells you to mourn, but not to fall. The Stoics didn't contradict pain. They experienced it, but they refused to submit to it. They transformed it into energy. Every adversity was training. Every loss was a mentor. Every insult was a chance to demonstrate restraint. This is how you construct a mind of steel. Not by fleeing pain, but by converting it. There is another law that the Stoics followed. The law of simplicity. Weakness lies in complication. Human beings complicate their lives with stuff, attachments, constant distractions, and then they wonder why they are enslaved. Simplicity simplifies the unimportant so that you can concentrate on what is important. Do you actually need the latest, the constant validation, the never-ending pursuit of status? Or do you need light, courage, tranquility? Weakness suffocates amidst noise. Strength flourishes in quiet. Remove the extraneous and freedom is yours. And freedom kills weakness. But here is what most won't say. Existing this way is isolation. When you cease to respond like everyone else, when you cease to pursue what they pursue, when you opt for silence over noise, you distance yourself. People will tell you that you are cold, distant, different. They'll even ridicule you, but that is the cost of becoming untouchable. Weakness resides in the crowd. Strength resides alone. And the stronger you get, the fewer will know you. But the ones who do, they will revere you. They will notice in you something they desire but can't define. And in secret, they will envy your strength. So ask yourself, are you ready to pay that price? To forfeit ease? To forfeit approval? To forfeit comfort? So you can acquire freedom, resilience, power. Weakness will always be the less expensive choice, but it will take from you your life. These laws are brutal because life is brutal. The world will not go easy on you. Betrayal will happen. Loss will come. Failure is guaranteed. The only question is, will you meet it with weakness or with strength? Will you collapse or will you rise? The Stoics answered that question every day. Now it's your turn.